Okay, instead of doing a long introduction for our guest speaker today, instead I just want to welcome Denise Druce, who's the founder of Yoga Assets and Yoga Forward, and I'm going to show you a brief video to introduce her.
Hi, I'm Denise Druce, co-founder of Yoga Forward. I once had a mentor tell me, if you want to know where to serve, go to your wounds. So my wounds were with my father. He spent 15 years in prison.
Yes, exactly.
Pull myself together. Hi, everyone. Thank you for letting me take a few minutes of time with you today. And I will pull myself together for sure. Share the story of how I got there into the work that we're doing in the prison and where I hope to go from here. So since the word of the day today is mindfulness, will you indulge me for a moment? And let's do a little mindfulness activity. Yeah? So where you're sitting, if you'll just put your feet on the floor. And you can sit with your back against your chair. You can come forward a little bit if that feels more comfortable. Either close your eyes or just look down in front of you so that your attention comes inward a bit more. And let yourself just take in the details of this moment. The sounds that you hear. The parts of your body that are held by a chair and the floor. Maybe the temperature of air on your skin, where your clothing is touching you. What you see with your eyes closed. Maybe there's a taste in your mouth or a smell. And then notice your breath. Just notice yourself breathing, sitting here on a Wednesday afternoon in room 136, the Snow College Business Building. Smack dab in the center of your own life with technology and everything. So what I'd like to acknowledge that you have come a long way to get here. From the day that you were born and took your first breath, there have been many breaths and many steps and many twists and turns that brought you right here. You might even say we were all destined to be here just like this. We don't know what lies ahead, but we know we're here now. So as you open your eyes and come back into this room a second time, I just invite you to come to your seat a little more mindfully and a little more present. Do you notice a difference in like giving your attention to now? Yeah. So that's what I've been doing with people for over 45 years in my work, is helping people to be present, be in their bodies and aware of what's happening moment by moment. So the title of this is Leg Warmers to Dharma. Raise your hand if you know what Dharma is. Yeah. Want to say it?
Dharma is like your purpose, your responsibility, your work.
Yeah, absolutely. You might even call it our calling. It's what your soul wants you to do with your life. What your big self wants you to do with your life. And when I say big self, in yoga, we talk about little self as, I have a name, I'm a mother to 3 sons, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm a friend, I'm a yoga teacher, I have a business. That's all little, that's human little self stuff. Who is big self? Big self is the one that is called to do big things in life, right? It's the part of me that wants to make a difference and leave a legacy, right? So I started by teaching aerobics, and I was 18 years old. I was just out of high school. I had been a dancer in high school, and I had a part-time job, and I just started teaching aerobics. I had no idea that 46 years later, I would still be wearing stretchy pants to work every day. And I am, 46 years later. So as we get into this, I just want to ask you, do you think your first career will be your last? Raise your hand if like the first job you had right out of high school, the job you have now, if you think that's it for the rest of your life. You're like, I hope not. Walmart is great, but I hope it's not forever. I had no idea that my first job would actually be the job that took me through the rest of my life. But what I found in that very first aerobics class that I taught right out of high school is that movement with people together in a room brings joy. And people walk into the room one way, stressed out, whatever they are, list of to-dos, maybe a little self-conscious about being in a leotard, and they leave more joyful, more comfortable, and more connected with each other. So from that very first class, that's what I've tried to recreate in every setting, whether people were on a shag carpeting or a step or in a weight room or on a bike or in a yoga mat. So, yep, there we go. There's the 80s for you. Right? Lucky for you, you're not seeing the back view of that leotard because there was this thing back then, and I won't even say the word. But I did not know when I stepped onto the shag carpeting that day that I was stepping into my career. Through the years, one thing that I want to emphasize to you is that I have done what I love every single day of my life, but I've had to pivot and change many, many times as the industry has changed. So a lot of the things that you see now in fitness are recycled from when we started them. If you do high fitness, you're just doing good old-fashioned aerobics that we started doing in the early 80s. Step aerobics is making a comeback. So I opened a gym at one point in my career, and we used to do this thing out in the amphitheater downtown Salt Lake City called Steptacular. And we would get hundreds of people outside doing step aerobics. The industry evolved again, and people started riding on bikes in dark rooms, going nowhere, and it was called spinning, and now it's indoor cycling. Since we were right across the street from the Delta Center, Carl Malone started teaching spin for us. So I don't know if you know who this man is, but he's a legend. The fittest man I know. We had to make our bike seats about 12 inches taller for him. Hardest workouts I've ever done. But that's just an example of how we continue to pivot and change as the industry dictated. Have any of you done body pump classes? Like weightlifting, rhythmic weightlifting classes, sculpt? We were the first. And I must point out, this was my husband. That was when he was auditioning to marry the aerobics instructor. So he was coming to all the classes and doing great. Then I started to teach yoga. And now I get to teach yoga sometimes to thousands of people. The person front and center is Dan Reynolds, the lead singer of Imagine Dragons. The most nervous I've ever been teaching a yoga class was having Dan Reynolds shirtless in front of me in my class at the Utah State Capitol. But it has just truly been an absolute joy to change with the industry. And here I am now. So I still teach yoga, but it looks a little differently. Now I'm working, we started a nonprofit as a result. We're working inside the Utah State Correctional Facility. And in addition to teaching yoga to the folks there, we also teach yoga teacher training. So these are graduates in one of the facilities that we work with the men who just finished 200 hours of yoga teacher training. I don't know if you know a lot about recidivism, but recidivism is keeping track of how people return to prison once they've been released. The average percentages are, after about 3 years, around 30% of people reoffend and go back. After 5 years, it's in the 60% range, and up to 10 years, it can be close to 80% nationwide. Our program, we have over 150 graduates that have gone through our 200. Now on the outside, we have a 4% recidivism rate. So one thing about that is that yoga works. And the other thing about that is we've created a place where they can come out of incarceration, find community, find work, do the inner work that yoga asks you to do, like what we just did, sit, feel. Can you imagine being incarcerated and having to do that day after day? Here I am. I feel this. I'm aware of this, present in my own body, no place else to be. can't get into the future, can't be in the past. That got them through a lot of really hard years where they were incarcerated. So I'm very, very proud of that. And that kind of brings us to today. So what I want to say about today is, I asked that question about first job being your last job. I found a way for what I love to be my career, and I'm making over $100,000 a year being a yoga teacher. Does that sound kind of fun to you? To like, what's your favorite thing that you like to do right now? What's your hobby? What's your joy? Can you imagine that being your work and making six figures to do that? I literally work 1 day a week, all day Thursdays, and 1 weekend a month. So I have a lot of free time to be with my boys, with my husband, my swimming pool that I just built myself, which I'm very happy about. But that's what's possible when you follow your dharma, when you follow your passion and do what you love. So how do I do that? Let me see if my slides line up. How do I make six figures a year just being a yoga teacher? So I'm obviously a yoga teacher in regular classes like you would attend. I have a couple classes a week in studios. I have a Patreon channel that does really well, getting people in that wouldn't normally come to classes, that want the comfort of being at home and the convenience of doing yoga, fitness, cycling. Most of my Patreon members now are over 55 or 60, so they like working with a teacher that's over 60. So you can find a niche there in the digital world. I mentioned I have a yoga teacher training school. We've done trainings now in 9 states. We have over 1,500 graduates of a 200 and a 300-hour program, and we're working on a 1,000-hour, which is called yoga therapy, and it's kind of like yoga meets your favorite therapist, and works with people with in a more embodied way. And then we have Yoga Forward is the nonprofit that takes yoga where it isn't. In addition to working in the prisons, in the correctional facilities, we have programs in a place called The Other Side in Salt Lake, which is people coming out of homelessness and a small housing community. We work in recovery. We work with folks that have been struggling with addiction and trying to stay sober. We do a lot of work in schools because I think students and teachers are the most stressed out humans I know. And so giving mindfulness tools to a lot of the schools in our area. And we've also done outreach programs for our BIPOC community and the LGBTQ community in Salt Lake. So our work is to try to get yoga where it's not easily accessible. People who can't afford it, people who don't have transportation, people who are in a situation where they can't find their way to a studio. So that's Yoga Forward. The video that you saw, we were asking for money. We don't need money for our video anymore. We got picked up by a major motion picture company. They've committed $100,000 to produce our documentary. So we've been working on that since last September. They've been in and out of the prison several times. So you can be looking for that sometime, hopefully end of summer. So if you were thinking about donating, donate anyway, but just not to that cause. Okay. So I want to just jump to some kind of key points I think that might help you make this a so what. Like, why does this matter for me? Raise your hand if you've heard of Ikigai. Okay. Ikigai is a Japanese philosophy that says if you can put these 4 things together, you have found your dharma. You have found your place in the world. So if what you love to do becomes what you're really good at, if it's what the world needs, and you can find a way to get paid for it, you have won the lottery of work. You will never work again a day in your life if you find these 4 things. You will go to play every day, and I promise you, you will not be able to wait to get out of bed because what lies ahead of you is so meaningful to you. So think about that for a second. What you love and what you're good at. Any professional Olympic athlete has figured this out. They do what they love and they do it until they're really, really good at it. The world needs it, right? We need that inspiration. We love to watch those athletes. They inspire us to be better, and we certainly pay for it, right? Think of musicians and artists. Every single one of them will tell you the story. My family said, no, you'll never make it as an artist, right? Go be an accountant. Well, what I love is making music, and I'm so good at it. I'm going to figure out, the world needs more joy. The world needs more art. I'm going to figure out a way to get paid for that. Okay? Any thoughts about that or questions about Ikigai?
I'm going to say at this, you probably already have this in your presentation, but the thing that is the most influential from you to me has been your suggestion to go to your wounds. Might be something you're going to talk about anyway, but that's what sometimes people don't know what their passion is, because it could be something that they wouldn't even want to think about. It might be a place of shame or pain.
Yeah.
To go there.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, because that's kind of easy for me to jump over. But remember the slide of Sherry and I standing with our dad? When my mentor challenged me, if you have, where you've experienced pain in your life, and we all have, when you go back there to be in service of those people, there's this, who better than you, because you get them, you understand. I walk into the prison and I see fathers. Well, at this age, I see sons, actually, truth be told. There are a lot of young men in there that are the age of my sons, and I look through eyes and see them as sons, fathers, daughters, sisters, aunts. I don't see crimes. We've never once asked someone, what did you do to get here? We don't want to know, because the human brain can't forget that. No matter how hard we try to get past it, we always hold that person to the worst thing they ever did. And so we never ask that question. So now I can see them as a human being full of potential. What you did in the past, you do your work of restitution for that. That's your work. I'm here to stand with you in the present moment and help you walk toward a more positive future. And so I think that's what's possible if you have struggled with addiction. Who better than you to sit in circles of people who are struggling, because you see them. You're not talking at them, you're talking with them, right? So maybe let that plant a little bit of a seed. If there was an injury you had in sports, anything like that, that is a wound that you have more empathy to speak to people who are dealing with something similar to that. If you have a family member that struggles with mental illness or addiction, who better than you? You see through empathetic eyes. And so now you can dive into that space, what the world needs, and find your way to making that work in a greater way that sustains you financially, right? Thanks for that question. Okay. Any other questions or thoughts at that point? No? We're good? All right, I'm going to keep going then. I want to just touch on some things that I think I can impart my wise old wisdom to you. Number one, start before you feel ready. There's always this, like, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I don't have the degree yet, I don't have enough experience, I need to build confidence. The way you build confidence is getting out there and doing the thing. Okay? So what you love, start doing it. When we're teaching people how to be yoga teachers in a 200-hour course, we get them teaching in the very first week or two and teaching to each other, right? They're not very good teachers at that point, but they're learning, right? And they're learning from their mistakes. So start before you're ready. Don't wait until you have a full PhD to get out there and start doing what you love and getting good at it. Do work that serves humanity. Right? If you're doing, you know what will happen if you are in the service industry and doing things that serve humans? You won't be replaced by AI. There are plenty of videos that people can watch, but people still come to find a fitness or a yoga instructor. Right? People want their hair done by a human that will chat with them. Right? People want those personal services. And so if you're thinking about AI kicking you out of your job, think about being in service to humanity in the way no machine could be. Okay, personal connection. this has been a really big one to me. Build relationships, and not only in community, but it's really, really important that you find a mentor, that you find someone that's a little bit ahead of you on the road, that's been doing what you see yourself doing, and walk behind them, right? Ask them questions, read about them, study about them, find out what works for them, and see if you could buy them lunch and have that, pick their brain. Somebody that really seems to be like your future. If you can do that, that's going to really help you to have just those lights on your pathway. And then maybe even more importantly, be a mentor to someone else. Find someone in junior high or high school that is watching you, that knows that you're doing what you love, and bring them along, right? So there's always this image of like, I'm being led by people that have come just before me, and I'm going to also help people that come behind me. Right? That's been so important to me all the way along, to always have both in my life. Take care of your body and your mind. They are your best long-term assets. And it may not seem like it right now, but every single day you are aging. And that doesn't get better over time without effort. Right? So the habits that you're building right now, you're building the body that you'll have 7 years from now, right? In this very moment, your body is building new cells, and old cells are dying. So the choices you're making today, and the things that you eat, and the way that you move your body, and what you input into this brain right here, are who you will be 7 years from now. So it doesn't seem like it, but it's really important that you think in that mindset of, I am building the body that, in my case, is fighting disease, right? I feel like I've got 45 years of really good insulation against some hard things that come at bodies as they age, right? So I know that sounds like, I feel like I'm talking to my kids right now, like, eat your vegetables. But seriously, this is your vehicle. This is your tool. And what you do with it now will matter when you're here. You definitely have to be open to change. You guys have seen this already in your lives with technology. Things change daily, right? And every industry is the same. I can't think of one single industry where things have stayed exactly the same. So if you can turn yourself into, if you're not already, a person that embraces change, and that is able to pivot, that's going to serve you well. So a great example of this is the day that the pandemic started. I was teaching classes and all over the place, and boom, you can't do that anymore. I had no idea what Zoom was, but someone said, open up Zoom. And so I did, and that's how my Patreon channel got started. So I just started teaching classes over Zoom and recording those classes, putting them on YouTube. And so for the 2 years of the pandemic, I think I uploaded 700 videos on YouTube, and they're still there for free. You just have to deal with ads. So you're welcome to look those up if you think that's helpful. But that has led to a really great revenue stream for me that I never would have found, because I would have thought, no, people need to be in person, but there's a way for people to do both, to supplement with that, with the Patreon. Another way that we pivoted over time, my husband and I owned several health clubs over time. And every time we changed, it was because my husband is very forward thinking and he could see the industry changing. So we had a health club downtown, the Carl Malone Health Club. And Madonna came to our health club one time with Dennis Rodman, which is very cool. No, but he was very colorful. He was in a long fur coat. And they were making out in the weight room, and I had to ask them to please control themselves. Can you imagine tapping Madonna on the shoulder and going, excuse me, can you, my members are complaining, can you keep it down a bit? But that started to be really competitive. We were a mom and pop gym. We had a really great business, but big companies were coming in like 24 Hour Fitness and a company called Excel and Gold's Gym. And so my husband was forward thinking enough to say, it's time for us to sell right now. And we moved into what was a new trend at that time, women's health clubs. That back in the day, curves was a big deal. And so we shifted and pivoted, and we did that for about 6 years. And, one thing led to another, and they were all really hard pivots for me because I got so attached. But in hindsight, they were always the right pivot. So if you can be a little more forward thinking and see change coming and not dig your fingernails in, that will serve you well as well. Any thoughts about that? Pivots, change, industries? Okay. Define success for yourself. Have you heard that from every single speaker that's been here? Define your own success. Yeah. Sherry asked me if I would speak a little bit about my boys because they're all entrepreneurs. My husband's an entrepreneur. We don't know how to have bosses in our home. And so my boys were raised with two parents that did what you're hearing about today. When it came time for college, education is super important to me. I have a master's degree in public health, and I've always put money away for my kids to have college fund. When the time came, each of them said, "No, thanks, Mom. I don't need a college degree," which is why I have a swimming pool now, because their college fund is now Mom's swimming pool. So thank you very much. But they all are very entrepreneurial-minded people. And I believe a class like this would have helped all of them have a bigger picture, but they figured this out for themselves. My youngest is 21 now. And when he was 5, we took a video of him getting dressed in firefighter clothing. It's cute, so cute. It's on YouTube. Right away, it got like 100,000 views. It somehow went viral. Firefighters were watching it with their kids. I don't know, but it kind of went viral. And we started getting ad revenue. And so it got to the point where at 7 or 8 years old, he was getting like $150 a month. And he was just putting these dumb little, he was a hockey player, like little hockey shot videos. He was a cute kid. People were watching them. And so he started seeing this money coming in that Mom's putting in a college fund. And he's like, So he got his big brother to help him. And I didn't know about this. And he started doing Fortnite. Y'all know about Fortnite, right? He wrote me a letter when he was 11 years old. I should have brought it today, but it's kind of like this. "Dear Mom, I hope you will take this seriously. I have decided that I want to do gaming for my job. I know you're going to argue with this. I promise you I will get good grades and I will keep playing hockey, but leave me alone. I want to be a gamer. Thank you very much, Van Druce." That was his mindset. So he got really good at Fortnite. And he would level up and then sell the accounts. Like he would buy skins and sell them. Is that ringing true for anybody? He'd get all the weapons and they're not costumes, I don't know, uniforms, things. He'd get all the things and then he'd sell them for $300 or $400. That led to him doing this and this and this. And he just kept figuring out ways to sell things online. On his 16th birthday, we're sitting in our living room and this big truck pulls up and rolls off a Range Rover that he had paid cash for, 16 years old, paid cash for a Range Rover, had it delivered from New Jersey, unbeknownst to Mama. Big brother was helping him with all this stuff. So at that point, we just had to support him in his dreams. And now he's doing, he does a lot of TikTok shop stuff. He sells, they're varsity apparel, like with the big numbers, and blondes have more fun, brunettes have more fun, big hoodies, and he's just doing great. Just got a new Mercedes, little thing. So he's 21, and so when I say define success for yourself, that kid did. And all along the way, Mom, Dad, everybody, no, you really need stay in hockey, stay in school, all the things. And he just has defined success for himself. And as far as I can tell, he's going to be all right. So it might not look like that, but what you believe is true for you is true for you more than anybody else. And I can say that unequivocally. You know you best. That big self you knows what Dharma is for you. And don't let anybody pull you away from that. Okay? That sound good?
Yeah.
So you saw in the video, and you've heard me mention a couple of times, the word thriving. So I was diagnosed with breast cancer 10 years ago now. And we luckily caught it early. The treatment was great. 5 years later, boom, done, rang that bell. In 2023, I had some shoulder pain, and my doctor said, let's go get a CAT scan. That doesn't seem normal. And they found out that it had come back, and it was in my spine and my lungs. I found this out when I was driving to the prison to teach the women. I got the phone call, Denise, we've got some bad news. It's incurable, but it's treatable. We'll see you Monday. I just made the quick decision to go ahead and go to the prison because there was nothing I could do at that point. And I went and taught the class, and those women learned about my situation before my husband did, which was a problem, but we dealt with that. Since that day, I'm taking oral chemo treatment and some other fun things, but I feel like I'm thriving. And the reason I am thriving is because, number one, as I said earlier, I've taken really good care of the car that I drive, given it good maintenance, doing the best I can with good sleep habits. The yoga helps with my mental game more than anything. That whole mindfulness thing about being right here and not getting out ahead of myself. That's the worst place to be, is in the future, because it's not real and it doesn't exist. And up there is only stress and anxiety, right? We don't know. There's no way to know what my doctor's going to say to me tomorrow. And so if I spend my time worrying on that, I don't get to be here with you today and seeing your beautiful faces and feeling your great energy and hopefully giving somebody something that maybe they need to hear. So I would offer that to you, that whatever you are going through right now, and I know you all are because you're a human being that's alive, which means you have a hard thing going on in your life somewhere, right? Some kind of challenge. That's what we do in our lives. And if you're not, it's because you're on a good wave right now. Like, ride that wave. But what I'm learning is that standing right here, right now, there's not a problem. The only problems are when I let myself get too far back there or too far up there. And so that's why I use the word thriving. So I would offer that to you, that wherever you are, whatever you're doing, stay in your own two footprints. Stay in the seat that you're in, the lane that you're in right now. I tell my kids all the time, stay on your own yoga mat. You have no business being over there with those people. And ride this. This is your ride, right? This is your car on the roller coaster. Ride this and enjoy it, right? Because we just don't know what's around the next bend. Yeah? Okay. Questions? Comments? Yes.
So you said that like yoga was like one of your first jobs out of high school. How did you just go from it being something you love? How did you realize like, oh, I can make a business out of it? And like, how did that start? Like, was there a lot of like trials with it, or did it come pretty easy? Like, you said like mentors?
Yes. Thank you for that question. So it wasn't yoga right out of school. It was aerobics. It was high impact aerobics with bare feet and shag carpeting and leg warmers. And so I was working in a health club, and the manager needed an aerobics instructor. So I just jumped out and did that. Literally cassette tape in the player, all the things. And so the way that led to it being more of a job is I went to Utah State University. I worked there for that summer, and then I went to Logan. And so I had this new skill, and I loved it. And I went to the Student Activity Bureau at Utah State, and I said, do you guys have aerobics up here? And they said, no, we don't. I went, well, I know an aerobics instructor. And they gave me a gym. It was actually a wrestling gym, which was weird because it had these big, thick pads. But I started charging $1 a class. And I would stand at the door of the wrestling gym and just grab dollars from people. And I would get 80 people, because this was brand new. This was in 1981. It was the new world of Jane Fonda aerobics. And so students were just giving me $1, and I would make $80 a class. So then I started teaching every night, 5 nights a week, and waitressing on the weekends. But that paid for my college. That paid my college tuition. So it was kind of like that. Like I had that entrepreneurial brain. The next move I made after all of that was I heard about this thing called corporate wellness. It was corporate fitness back then. So when I graduated from college, I bought a little machine where you pinch people's fat, do body fat testing. because that was a thing. And then I ended up with 20 corporate contracts that we were doing corporate fitness with. And that led to opening a health club. So it was kind of like that one thing after another. It wasn't one big jump, but those were the beginnings. Yeah, thanks for that question. Anything else? Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about how you formed your nonprofit and what that means to have a nonprofit organization? Because some students hear that and they think that means you don't make any money.
It's kind of true.
Yeah.
It could be, yeah. Yeah. Okay. We formed the nonprofit because we were already doing yoga teacher training, and we had a lot of graduates that were doing what I said earlier about get out there and teach and practice and go to your wounds. And so I had people who were teaching in addiction recovery, children's hospital, homeless shelter, like all in these strange places where they couldn't get paid. We didn't have yoga mats, blocks, any of the things. So my best friend and I were on an airplane, and we said, wouldn't it be cool if we could raise some money to help pay these teachers and help them get things like props, mats and blocks and whatnot. And so we literally made a plan to form a nonprofit on a cocktail napkin on an airplane. She knew a guy that was a lawyer. We came home, sat down with him, and he helped us form our nonprofit. So that was the easy part, that it's not hard to form a nonprofit. It's a 501c3. It just means that you don't have to pay taxes on things. But a nonprofit is exactly what it means. You've got to bring money in and you got to put money out, right? And there has to be an equal amount. You don't sit with a bunch of money in your bank account. People won't give money to a nonprofit unless they know what it's going to. So there's a lot of reporting to your donors. And it turned me into what I call a hustler, because I'm constantly asking people for money. That's my job now. I have to ask people for money all the time so we can do these good things. And I don't mind a bit, because we are doing good things with their money. And spoiler alert, people have money to give to that. There are people and organizations that will support causes, right? So can you make money in a nonprofit? We are 9 years in as a nonprofit, and I've never taken any money from Yoga Forward. I'm the chairman of the board, and I make my money on all of the teacher trainings and yoga and Patreon and other things. The nonprofit just sustains itself, and we have enough money to pay an executive director. So that's one thing that you can do if you formed a nonprofit, is you could become the executive director, and you basically run the show and do the work. And so then when you're seeking funding, you're asking for not funding for a specific project, but you're asking for general funds. So you'd go maybe to like the state of Utah, and you're saying, we're doing this work in the prison. Can you give us a $30,000 administrative fund, general funds that we can do with what we want? And so then you can use that to pay for office rent, pay for your executive director, things like that. It's definitely not where you are going to get rich unless you start a nonprofit like United Way, where they pay their executive directors big bucks. But you can, if you're willing to do the fundraising and be smart about it, work with a grant writer, you can bring in enough money to sustain the salary that you want. And you always have to answer to your donors about how that money is being spent and how much of your time you're putting in. So you have to be very, very transparent with it. But I personally feel like it enhances my for-profit business. So even though I don't make money in my nonprofit, it brings business to my Patreon and my teacher training and my yoga retreat business, which is where I make a ton of money. Yeah. Thank you for that question. Does that help? Yeah. Forming it is easy. Funding it is hard.
Maintaining it.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else? Closing time. Okay. All right. Well, here you are. Stay here. Enjoy this time in the season of your life. It's a super exciting time to be alive. Lots of change coming down the road in front of all of us. Do what you love. Get really good at it. Make sure it serves humanity, and find a way to get paid for it. I'm also going to leave my contact information up here for you before we leave so that you can reach out to me. I'm more than happy to, I can't act as a full-time mentor, but I'm always happy to answer questions as they come up and share resources with you if I can be helpful. Okay?
Okay.
Namaste.
Namaste.